Hi there, history fans. Today I'm very happy. Why? Because the new mic came along. You see, it's a small one. I think they're called lavalier, but it's a 6 meter long cable. So it's going to be not only used in, reaction videos, but also for the projects. This was possible because of the patrons who support me financially on Patreon. And we have also two new patrons. Alan from England, or I don't know if you prefer Great Britain, and Doug from Massachusetts. So a big shout out to those two. If you also want to support the channel via Patreon, the link is going to be in the description below. Go check it out if you like the benefits and so on. You can subscribe also there. So today we're actually doing two reaction videos. And the first one, as you can see, is about the Polish-Soviet War from Future History, and it was suggested on our Discord server. If you want to join our Discord server, the link is also going to be in the description below. And as always, the original video from Future History is also going to be in the description below. So go give them a view and a like. I already covered one video from them, and it's the Russo-Japanese War of 1904, 1905. And yeah, let's jump into the topic. And please comment if this mic is doing better than the last one in the comment section, because I'm also going to record with the old GoPro mic, just in case if this becomes terrible. Okay, let's jump into the topic. If you have any additional information, corrections, interesting stuff about that war, just let me know in the comment section below. And of course, I'm going to give my opinions, thoughts, additional information. You know the drill that I know.
Today, we're going to talk about when Poland won its independence. Won its independence from Russia. From Russia in the 20th century. From Russia in the 20th century through the means of conventional warfare. There we go, thank you.
Okay, nice intro, nice intro.
Hello and welcome to Feature History, featuring the Polish-Soviet War. A war that came immediately after the war to end all wars. Ironic, isn't it? In fact, a lot of conflicts didn't even wait for the Great War to end before starting. The Russian Revolution, the rise of the Bolsheviks, and the period of a very confusing Eastern European map all started in about 1917. Of course, it wasn't just the Russians getting in on the fun. It was a whole Slavic salad of conflict. And for this episode...
Hey, the Baltic nations aren't Slavic. Or do you consider yourself Slavic? I think that the Baltic nations, or people that live in the Baltic nations, so that they think more of themselves as a Nordic culture. If you're from one of those states, please let me know.
We're shining the spotlight on our beloved friends, brothers, and plumbers, the Polish. Let's go back to the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, which was a state that existed from 1569 to, spoilers, 1795. As well as being a mouthful to say, the Commonwealth was a fairly serious regional power. Hell, in the 17th century, it almost annexed Russia. But as said, it came to an end, as it had weakened further and further until it was partitioned by three empires: Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Their sovereignty had been eliminated. However, their culture never died. Polish nationalism would be a genuine concern for a long time. Skipping to the First World War, Germany...
Okay, now bear with me. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was one of the bigger nations in Europe by landmass, and yeah, it was powerful, a powerful country back then. But with time, the power of the nation declined. And there are three main partitions of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. I didn't know that they're going to start with the partition of Poland, but okay. The first one was in 1772, the second one was in 1790, and the third one was in 1795, as he mentioned, where the rest were also partitioned between those three superpowers, so the Austro-Hungarian, Prussian, and Russian country. And the thing is, what I wanted to say, just to give like a big, like an easy glimpse on how it was partitioned. So most of the landmass was acquired by the Russians, and they got Vilnius. The Austro-Hungarians, they gained Lvov, or Lemberg in German. Like depends on from which country you are. It depends what name you're going to use while talking about that time period. And they also acquired Krakow. But the Germans, they acquired Danzig, and they also acquired Warsaw. But the most of the landmass was acquired by Russians. And yeah.
Austria-Hungary and Russia.
And something else, why the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth declined so rapidly. I wouldn't say most, but a lot of historians agree that one of the main problems was how the so-called Sejm was established. That's like a parliament-like institution. Today, I think in Poland, Sejm is the name for the parliament, because they have the parliament and the Senate in Poland. And in the Sejm at that time, they had a so-called liberum veto, which means you as a member of the Sejm could veto any new legislation or proposal or whatever because of any reason. Which means, and of course, in every parliament and whatever, you have people with their own interests, some people with who are maybe corrupt, who are maybe favoring other, governments, other countries, and so on. So it was pretty hard to push out new reforms, new ideas through the Sejm, and to reform the country at that time. And as I said, a lot of historians agree that that was one of the main problems why the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was steadily declining throughout the years. I hope that you bared with me.
And also the rest of the world, went to war. A plethora of fighting, dying, and destruction was suffered by the Polish as the empires engaged a back and forth across the region. It was frustrating, sure, but the Polish nationalists saw it as an opportunity for independence. The statesman Józef Piłsudski proposed that the Polish would have to be active in the war, fighting for an empire so that empire would fight for them. Which empire though?
Yeah, logical.
Well, Yeah, that wasn't so clear. Germany and Austria-Hungary gave a shot at winning Polish loyalty, as they seriously needed it. From 1915, Germany had been pushing itself as the liberators of the Polish suffering Russian subjugation, because Germany would never subjugate the Polish. In 1960...
just a quick question for all the Polish people watching, like, when you talk about the different lands that were partitioned by the three superpowers, I mean, Austria-Hungary, Germany, or Prussia, and Russia, which lands do you consider that they progressed the most? Because we learned, like from an, let's call it Austro-Hungarian point of view, that Krakow, and I was in Krakow, it's a wonderful city. It's maybe one of my favorite cities I went to, like because of the architecture and all the old churches at the main square. And you also get some of that old Austro-Hungarian, style of buildings and so on. But anyhow, because from our point of view, the Austro-Hungarian part of we think, or we say, that the Austro-Hungarian part of Poland that was taken by the Austro-Hungarians, that was the most advanced, with new infrastructure, blah, 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 that was the most developed part or most invested part of Poland from those three. So I'm pretty interested in what a Polish narrative on that is. So let me know in the comment section below.
The two empires, after talks with the esteemed Pilsudski and a Polish delegation, created the Kingdom of Poland, which even had a constitution, but no pesky sort of government or borders. The former would spawn in 1917, but Pilsudski foresaw Germany's defeat and urged all Polish troops to not swear any oath, leading to his resignation and arrest. Regardless, through his actions the chance of Polish independence started to look more like a sure thing. Though of course Poland wasn't just a part of Germany and Austria-Hungary, but also Russia, who too saw its own fair share of the woes of war. In the Tsardom of Russia, things had been going tits up for Nicholas II since 1905. Constantly urged to reform or resign, he'd constantly respond with crackdowns and middle fingers. The World War turned unrest to crisis, and the Tsar's days dwindled alongside every moment the war continued. In February 1917, a women's protest would turn into a workers' protest, which turned into an army mutiny, which turned into a riot, eventually turning into the Tsar's abdication. The power of rule...
and as we talked about the Russo-Japanese War of 1904-1905, we can see that was a major blow to the prestige or to the character of Nicholas II and to the whole structure inside of the Tsar and, you know, like the regime. And it was a major blow, so their defeat was a major blow to the reputation of Russia as a superpower. And already in 1904, 1905, there were already unrests and people uprise or revolts and so on. So it wasn't just a revolution that just appeared like that. It was a boiling problem that culminated in the revolution, but it came up over and over and over again in the years prior to the revolution that we know.
Had been passed from Romanov to revolution. The seat of power rested in Petrograd, formerly known as St. Petersburg, before it was decided that German shit don't fly here. The State Duma, or National Assembly, set up a provisional government, but given circumstance, their power was in fact shared with Petrograd's Soviet, or Council. The Duma would continue the war, which wasn't a great idea as people began to flock to the smaller Bolshevik party, whose leader, Vladimir Lenin, on top of promising to stop the war, promised the redistribution of land, destruction of the bourgeoisie, transfer of power to the local Soviets, and a bloody and brutal revolution. To make a long story a little shorter, October 1917 saw the Bolsheviks and their Red Army seize Petrograd in the name of revolution, forcing Russia's descent into all-out civil war.
Well, hello there, feature history guy.
Indy Nidell.
My lord, is that the Indy Nidell from the Great War channel, which you can find at www.youtube.com/.
I also like Indy Nidell in his videos. I mean, he goes more into details with all of his topics, and he also takes, you know, like micro-historical, like, you know, like battles and figures in a battle and so on. So I really like his take on stuff, but that's not the topic of today's
every Monday,
video.
Thursday, and Saturday?
Yeah, it is in fact me. I came over here to tell your viewers that if they're enjoying learning all about the Polish-Soviet War and the Russian Revolution, that over on our channel we have a new video about the Bloody Baron, who forged his own interesting tale in that conflict way over on the other end of Russia.
Well, that sounds just
Don't
marvelous.
know about him.
I think I'll be watching that myself.
Also, where did my eyes go?
Ah, don't mention it. Glad to have had you on.
I can't see. No, seriously, I can't see.
Jeez, what a nerd. As the First World War came to a close, the map of Central and Eastern Europe changed drastically. Many smaller nations had seen a chance to break away from foreign powers, and the US President Woodrow Wilson made special note on Polish independence in his 14 points presented at Versailles. The Second Polish Republic was birthed with Marshal Józef Pilsudski at the helm. This new state, though, was a tad smaller than maybe it should have been. The Greater Polish Uprising in 1918 saw insurgents attack the weakened Germany and pressure Versailles to grant them an expanded western border. The eastern border, however, well...
So they got Danzig, Gdańsk.
Those writing the treaty must have skipped the question and forgot to come back to it. The Bolshevik-controlled Soviet Russia viewed states like Poland, Ukraine, Belarus
I mean, they cut off.
Latvia, Lithuania,
Sorry.
as just temporary breakaways. Lenin was confident to come back for them, just as soon as the White Army in Russia had been defeated. Not only was this dispute a matter of de jure claims, but Lenin saw Poland as a bridge to Germany. and if the revolution was to continue, it was important the German socialist movement united with the Bolsheviks to create a communist Europe. So a freshly independent Poland was already threatened with annexation again. That didn't sit well with Pilsudski, so as the Russian Civil War dragged and the Red Army was bogged.
Just a quick note on that, and yeah, they cut off Danzig. I already see the comment section like, oh, what did you say there? One quick note on Poland. As you saw, Poland is the geographical position of Poland is very tricky, because if you look at the map of Poland, let's say today, just open up Google Maps. It's almost everything is flatland, so perfect and easy for armies to cross that field. Plus, Poland is between, as I said, the three big superpowers: Russia, Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And I'm sorry to say that, but Poland is technically a perfect playground for the big powers to match their power. So, and that's why Poland's geography is kind of tricky for them.
Down, it seemed better to start now rather than later, and the Polish army made its first offensive in February 1919. The initial and disorganized offensive saw some victories and stalemates, being a slow but steady advance eastward. If this was to be a serious war, some work had to be done. A diplomatic effort was swiftly undertaken. Pilsudski dreamed of a federation of friendly states revolved around Poland. The support of Romania and Hungary agreed to send Poland arms, but for a military alliance, Poland only managed to befriend Ukraine, or what was left of it after the Soviets had shown up there. Diplomacy wasn't the only struggle. Logistics cold. And God was she ugly. The infrastructure and army of Poland was almost like it had been built by 3 different empires. What Poland did have though was spirit. And you know, that actually did count for something. In early 1920, the Polish and Ukrainians began a southern offensive against the Red Army. Pilsudski claimed it was an effort to restore the Ukrainian state, but the fact of the matter was this alliance was purely temporary. The Polish and Ukrainians hated one another. They took some easy victories, entering the abandoned Kiev by May.
I want to hear from Polish and Ukrainian people what their perspective on that same war is. Do you consider yourself like useful allies or real allies, or was it just a I'm going to use you for our purpose and so on? So I'm really interested on that. And one thing also, yeah, at the beginning the Poles have had were pretty successful and pretty victorious against the Red Army. So they took Vilnius, they took also Minsk in Belarus, or Weißrussland, Belarus, and they also took Kiev, so the capital of Ukraine.
May 1920, however,
or a bigger
around the
city
same time the Civil War had begun to wrap up. Lenin believed it was the end of the Red Army's defensive war, and now it was time to begin an offensive one. Lev Trotsky, who's Commissar of Military Affairs, disagreed with the westward charge so soon. But tough shit, it was his job to get it done. The front, from the Soviet perspective, was to be split between a northern Polish one and a southern Ukrainian one. Trotsky's job was to coordinate this joint offensive between, for the sake of simplicity, let's say, Mikhail Tukhachevsky in the north and Joseph Stalin in the south. Facing a now organized, outnumbering and direct opponent, a string of Red Army victories forced the Polish into retreat as the Soviets aimed to, in Tukhachevsky's words, move onward to Berlin over the corpse of Poland. Poland's only effective resistance was their ability
Not nice.
to intercept Soviet orders. Using this and their legendary cavalry, they harassed the enemy in a guerrilla-like fashion. Panic looked to grip Polish resistance, however, and Pilsudski only managed to pull in the reins at the almost final moment, as the Red Army drew nearer and nearer to Warsaw. Now the French, UK and US looked to support Poland in small ways, now seeing the threat of the Soviet advance. The Polish people also prepared to throw everything they had at the enemy, because everyone, armed with anything, was going to fight. At the same time, it seemed there was an issue in the Soviet side, because as Tukhachevsky prepared for battle, Stalin's army was still in the south, besieging Lvov. He was determined to take the glory of having seized the city, and against orders continued the siege. Stalin may have sabotaged the battle for Warsaw before it even began. Regardless though, Tukhachevsky still had a reasonable chance of taking the capital, and so Pilsudski looked to employ an audacious plan. Interestingly, the Red Army would intercept this, and thought it was so silly that it was just an attempt to deceive them, dismissing it. Once the battle commenced, every Polish person, and even some not Polish people, gave it their all in the defense of the city. Pilsudski...
Okay, I knew that. What does he mean by that? Is he talking about Polish immigrants to the US that came back to fight for Poland, or was it like US volunteers that volunteered in the Polish army back then? I knew that Romania and Hungary were actively supporting with weapons, but I don't know anything about, like direct involvement of the US in the war. So it's probably, I would say, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that they're maybe saying that Polish immigrants came back to Poland to fight on the Polish side.
He had set up his army almost stupidly close to the enemy's south, and so when he caught the Red Army off guard and launched a counterattack, the offensive was completely disrupted and the army routed. The Polish took a decisive and important victory. It wasn't enough to rout the Red Army though, it had to be destroyed. The legendary Polish cavalry took on the attackers of Lvov. In what would be the last cavalry battle in history, the Battle of Komorów, the Soviet cavalry, 10 times in number, were decisively defeated, destroying the once feared Red Army as an effective fighting force. At this time, Trotsky was attempting to sue for peace, presumably telling Lenin, "I told you so." The Polish continued to chase Tukhachevsky's army, leading to one last battle where Poland took one last victory. After that, both sides were deeply exhausted and Pilsudski, under the pressure of the West as well, accepted the request to negotiate. The Peace of Riga was signed in March 1921. The Polish stuffed their faces in the treaty, and did a brilliant job screwing over the Ukrainians, as Ukraine was split between the Soviets and Poland.
Yep.
Pilsudski himself was only able to observe, and denounced the peace as an act of cowardice. It permanently destroyed Poland's relations with neighbouring states, and made for a ticking time bomb between the Soviets and the Polish. The new eastern border was militarily indefensible and economically unviable, and this put a real dampener on their victory. Poland did achieve something a little less superficial.
And there comes again the question, how do the Ukrainians view the actions from the Polish side, and how do the Polish talk about the future of Ukraine on that? Because I read some stuff about the Polish relationships with the Orthodox Christians, like Belarusians and Ukrainians, at the eastern side of the border, like of Poland, and it wasn't very nice. Let's say it that way. The way they interacted with the Orthodox Christians inside of their territory. But let me know also if you know anything about that.
Though. In the defense of Warsaw, not only had they gate-kept their country, but also the rest of Europe from the spread of communism, causing the Bolsheviks to shelve the idea of a war for communism. They also had affirmed themselves as a new, strong, and independent Poland, one the world had not witnessed in centuries. And yes, the Second Republic did end in 1939, and they spent much time as a Soviet Republic, but that was reversible. If they had fallen in 1920, well, who's to say what would have happened? And truly it is for the best that Poland stood tall, as without that, how could I have wasted an entire month playing Witcher 3? Remember to check out the Great Wars video on the Bloody Baron Ungern Sternberg. I'll probably have linked it in front of your face right about now.
Ah, nice video. So as always, corrections, additional information, interesting information, please let me know in the comment section below. Yeah, one last thing about it. Yeah, the Soviets, they wanted to reach Germany. Why? And of course they needed to go through Poland to reach Germany. Why? Because the Communist and Socialist Party in Germany, and also the rising of the Social Democratic Party in Germany. But the Communist and the Socialist parties in Germany were pretty strong back then, after the Second World War. And you could also see a rise of communist and socialist parties throughout Europe, in some countries less, in some countries more. But they wanted to reach Germany because Germany was one of the more industrialized nations of Europe. And if they could install a communist government in the center of Europe, it would be more easy to spread the idea on neighboring countries like Austria, that was now newly formed after the Second World War, because it has close ties with Germany. Switzerland, because they also have German-speaking cantons, and then, you know, like, influence would go through them. To the Benelux states, where they had also not so great ties with Germany, but they had some cultural, you know, like similarities with them. So by converting Germany to be a Soviet or communist or whatever state, they could spread more easily towards other countries. And that's why a lot of Western countries like France, Great Britain, and the US wanted to stop the spread in Poland. They saw Poland as a frontier. And and that's why they were politically active in supporting the Poles. But as I said, I don't know about some active role of them in the war, like sending in troops or weapons. I know that Hungarians and Romanians sent weapons, but I don't know about the role of the UK, France, and the US. If you know it, just let me know. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed it. If you want to support the channel and be part of our history community, just hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when new videos come out. Discord server, Patreon page, everything you need to know about the channel is in the description below. So go check it out. And the second video is also going to come up today. Okay, see ya until the next video. Ciao.